Hey, hello, Tide fans. It's a special edition Tide Talk. I'm your host, Shawn Taylor. Got Jimmy in here with me in the studio, Mo with us on Zoom down in Panama City Beach.
Yeah, so why did you pull me away from the beach?
Sorry, man. You said it was raining and stuff, so we figured
something happened that I'm not aware of.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we're going to talk about that. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff happening.
I'm wondering. Well, enlighten me.
One of the reasons, that we wanted to do the show, Tide fans are just trying to kind of keep you in the loop. There's a lot of things that have transpired, obviously, since the last time we've done the show. We'll talk about some of that, but we want to just kind of, as I said, keep our viewers, maybe you're keeping up with it, but the three of us do a pretty good job of tracking and keeping up with things that are taking place. The first thing I'll do is just start with the question, the elephant in the room is, Maurice, how surprised were you, or were you surprised at all when we kind of started getting text messages and notifications that the GOAT had retired?
I was extremely surprised because of the things that he has been saying and the fact that we had another great recruiting class. And even while we were out there practicing in Pasadena, that we had gotten some transfers committed. A couple that one of them from USC came over to the practice, and we just had number one or number two quarterback commit to us, and great things coming out about how good he looked and a few others. So when you have that, you feel or figure that they've had that conversation. Saban's had those conversations with the recruits and the parents. And sometimes you just don't know, but it was very odd to me how everything played out. And I was trying to get as much information as I could about it.
Yeah.
So,
Jimmy?
Right. If you weren't surprised, then you're lying. Because it definitely for me came way out of left field. You're right. When we knew this day was coming, obviously, I think he had 3 more years on his contract. That would give him 20, I believe. So yes, I was completely shocked. Again, we knew it was coming, but just like Mo said, I mean, it's not like we haven't really fallen, if you will. A lot of these coaches they see the writing on the wall, they decide to get out. We've been there. We've been right there. We've been close, or play here or play there. So for him to walk away like he did, yes, I was completely shocked. I still find it hard to believe that he woke up that day, went to work, was doing interviews, and about lunchtime he said, "You know what? I don't think I want to do this no more."
Yeah. How about
really, that's how he did it? I just can't believe that's how it happened.
Do either of you, and I'll start with you, Jimmy, do either of you believe that at 3:55 he was on the phone with Miss Terry prior to the meeting he was going into?
That's what he says. He says that, the AD didn't know it was happening. The players didn't know that was happening. Miss Terry didn't know it was happening. He just decided, just right there on the spot, I think it's time to go. I just find it hard to believe.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's something else to it. There was all those rumors floating around about his health and Miss Terry's health. And of course, he has squashed those. I still wouldn't be surprised if some of that came out down the road. I just can't believe it happened like it happened and nobody knew about it.
well, the thing about it that was odd to me and people started pointing out is after the SEC championship game, a brief conversation between Kirby and Coach Saban, where Kirby says, "Thank you for everything that you've done for me." Excuse me? Aren't we playing again in September? It was like a farewell thing. And I believe Lane Kiffin had said something similar after the Ole Miss game. So, yeah, and I get the fact, to Jimmy's point, that there may still be some health issues, which is, strictly a family matter. It's none of our business or anybody else, which I get if you want to keep that private, if it's true, and I pray that it's not. But, yeah, I'm not buying the I was on the phone with my wife, and I couldn't decide, and I
Right.
walk in.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, I was
Now,
gonna retire, but I'm not gonna retire. I think I'm gonna go one more day. I think I'm gonna do. No, I just man,
let's talk about one of the most organized people we've ever seen, known, covers everything. I'm talking about, I'm going to look at, their field goal unit team, i.e. Tennessee in 2009, where we think we saw a problem with their left guard. So we lined Mount Cody over him, and we thought we could get some that kind of detail.
Yeah.
And you're telling me I wasn't sure until I was going into a team meeting after getting off the phone with my wife, and she said, "Whatever you do, I fully support." Now I get it; it's your business, but no, I'm not buying it.
I'm gonna take that in another step or direction. The guy that we've seen that has the most control of everything that goes on in the program, that the authority that he had, you're telling me that 5 minutes before the team meeting, you're unsure? 5 minutes you're talking to your wife? Now, granted, I'm not discounting anything with respect to their relationship. Obviously, it's a great relationship. But Nick Saban, the greatest of all time, that, bashes, reporters in press conferences and chews them out and things like that, is talking to his wife 5 minutes before he goes into the team meeting and decides to retire.
Again, and because of the kind of guy we just talked about, he is or was or is, I can't believe that he would not have sat down with the AD. Hey, buddy, this is what's on my mind. This is what's probably going to happen. Just FYI. But again, you hear the AD talk, he just didn't have a clue.
Yeah,
I don't like that.
And of course,
I'm not buying it.
Hold on. Somebody's pulling it.
Yeah. And of course, this is the first of a few special edition shows we'll do. So we can't put everything into this one show, but that's another conversation. Is you're Nick Saban, the guy, and you've had no conversation with the athletic director, Greg Byrne, and you just step into the meeting. And I'm sorry. Again, Maurice, you made right. You made a point about, you were just out in California and you had some pretty big people come out and visit and that entered the transfer portal and committed, and you talked about, you always told the truth, and if you couldn't, continue to tell the truth, then it was time to get out and that sort of thing. Yeah, I struggle with the fact that this is how this went down. I mean, but again, there's a lot of conversation to be had. We'll have some
real quick. Now, you said we're going to have another, because this isn't a 2-hour special.
No. This isn't a 2-hour special. It's our normal show, but we will have
20 minutes of this.
We will have multiple, because gosh, there's so much to talk about. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back and talk a little bit more about that, but also just kind of some other things that have happened surrounding the program. Hold your seats, Tide fans. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
Beam, the choice you deserve, bringing the game to your home.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. Again, who knows? I don't know that we'll ever know. We have our own speculations. At the end of the day, the guy deserves to make his own decision. Allegedly, maybe the greatest college football coach of all time. I read an article the other day that kind of showed where he ranked and when you look at all the rankings, statistically, he's not all, at the top every single time in all the statistics. But there's no disputing, the impact that he's had in college football and especially at the University of Alabama. But I want to go to the AD. I mean, I feel like the guy was put in a really bad situation.
If he didn't know already.
Was put in a really bad situation. And how do you feel, Maurice, with respect to the job that he did, who we hired? Everybody knows, Tide fans, maybe you don't. We hired Kalen DeBoer, the guy from Washington, just played in the national championship. How do you feel about that, Maurice? Two questions: the job that he did, that the AD, and then of course the hire of Kalen DeBoer.
All right. Well, first of all, here is the elephant in the room. So put him over here. Well, there's a. I'm not critical. I do like conspiracies or something like that, or I'm not pessimistic. However, okay, Greg Byrne is from the Northwest, so I get that, and he's had a few hires in his tenure at the university. Of course, he knew, as he stated, that nothing would ever be as big as this one, and that one day that this would come. So you're telling me that you're able to convince a man within the span of, how many hours was it? 48?
Less than 72. It was less than 72 hours.
It was about 2 days.
About 48 hours, technically.
Yeah. So you're able to fly cross country, meet with a gentleman and his wife, and convince him to leave everything that he has. And the guy is from, he's from the Midwest, South Dakota, and then, Northwest, spent his time on the West Coast. That, and I get it. I mean, you'll find no bigger supporter of the University of Alabama than I am. However, you're going to leave the West Coast and a lot of things that you've grown accustomed to fly and plant your family directly across from the U.S. In the U.S. In a span of that short of a time. I think that, as everybody had suspected, although it was being publicized, I think there was already in Jimmy Sexton. That's what agents are for, and they just happen to have the same agent. That's what agents do. Hey, in case this comes open, or you may be a candidate, do you and the family want to go ahead and discuss? So if you are chosen, it does come down that, you can make that decision. We can make that announcement rather quickly. Keep in mind, Greg Byrne said, he hadn't really slept that much. He was, on a plane. All of us were speculating, and my number one pick was Kalen DeBoer, because I like what he had done at all levels of coaching, and I like
Dan. You did say that early on in our conversations. I will give you that.
I will say that I did like Dan Lanning, and it's not just because he was a GA under Saban when he first got there, but he's a good defensive-minded coach, pretty good recruiter. But the thing that bothered me is the fact that he played Washington twice this year, and I really liked Oregon. And Washington in the second game just thumped them, and that, I thought, that really caught me by surprise. That's a well-prepared team to do it twice in 1 year.
Right.
So I liked him. And no, I to answer your question, I think it was kind of already, and that's fine if you want to play it like that. I don't care. But I think it was, I didn't want to go through all that crap that we went through back in 2007 or late 2006 and trying to get one coach and that backs out, and then it just turned into a fiasco. But,
one thing I was going to mention real quick about back to Saban, and you mentioned about the records, and he's not at the top of the list in all of them. Again, he went out, no fanfare, no big press conferences, no farewell tours. Again, man, he was really close. I mean, you're talking about records at Alabama as far as wins. He wasn't that far behind the Bear. Overall wins in the college, football history. I feel like we would at least one more national championship. He obviously didn't care about none of that stuff. which
That's
tells,
right.
it tells you about what kind of guy he is. Now, about the hire, yeah, I mean, I think we were texting back and forth. I mean, we could argue that, maybe Lane Kiffin would have been a good hire. I think after all the dust started settling, we realized that wasn't going to happen because the bridges burnt. Lanning, he was one of those guys. At the end of the day, you're right. Based on what we know, then I think we got the right guy. He's done it everywhere he's been. I mean, you think about it. He took over Washington just 2 years ago, and I believe I read when he was brought on, Washington lost
28.
Yeah, it's 28 players to the portal, which is basically what Alabama's lost. They lost 28 players to the portal, and in 2 years, he hadn't played in the national championship game. Again, you can argue why it's Pac-12, whatever. He won the Pac-12 undefeated, beat Texas, which we weren't able to do. Was in the championship game in 2 years after taking over Washington with all the players that left Washington. Again, it's still going to be, I mean, the verdict's still out on whether he can do it at Alabama, whether he can do it in the SEC, but I think we got it right. We certainly could have done a lot worse for sure. And so I'm excited about it. I think he's put together a great staff, again, just based on what you read and what you know. And now it's just, hey, prove it.
Yeah, when you talk about the SEC versus the Pac-12 and all that stuff, we're all SEC guys. We believe the SEC is the best conference. Throughout the course of history, that's been proven. Can the guy do it in the SEC? I don't know. We're going to find out. But to your point, I'm going to get to. Let me speak for just a second.
It's his show, Maurice. Let him talk.
I know.
But to your point, the guy has done it everywhere. You cannot discount what you just said with respect to Washington, losing 28 guys within 2 seasons he's playing, for the national championship. I like what he said so far. I like the way he's handled himself. I like, kind of his approach so far. So there's nothing to not like about the guy at this point. Of course, that remains to be seen how he does at Alabama. I'll let you go ahead and speak, Maurice.
2 things. One, people talk about, like you just said, coming from the Pac-12 into the SEC, different world. I had said early on in the year, I thought the Pac-12, albeit their last year, and the first time I've said it probably since the 90s, that the Pac-12 was the best conference this past year from top to bottom. I thought they were competitive. USC was a big letdown. But people that say, well, it's a big difference. They said the same thing about Urban Meyer, who I'm not a fan of, but he did win at Florida. Second thing I've seen on Twitter and Facebook, which I'm really tired of, they talk about recruiting. All right, first of all, Saban, and Jimmy, you just sent it out before the show. The number every year we've had a star-studded recruiting class. Cupboard is far from bare. It's loaded. So we are they say, well, what about him recruiting in the South? We recruit nationally. All our stud players are from all over the country.
Yeah.
So it does not matter that, well, you want, somebody from Trussville, Alabama, or that, happen to play there, or you want, we learned under Saban, prior to Saban, you better stop all this. Are they related to the university? You better go get the best coach that's available.
Right. Yeah.
And I think we did.
All right. That's a good place for us to pause. We'll come back and do the third segment. Want to get a little bit more into that with respect to players, because that's been huge. A lot of news we need to talk about. Hold your seats, Tide fans. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
Beam, the choice you deserve, bringing the game to your home.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. Maurice, you were just talking right there before the break. I mean, you're exactly right. Yeah, I still believe the University of Alabama recruits itself. Jimmy alluded to the fact, we've talked in group text that, we've had 2 GOATs, Paul Bear Bryant, Nick Saban. The University of Alabama football recruits for itself. But to your point, those players are from all over. We have guys from, go back to Tua. I mean, the Joker's from Hawaii.
Bryce Young.
comes to the University of Alabama, Jalen Milrose from Texas, so I agree, get the best coach. And he has made a statement that I really like, because in my stint of coaching, it's about your personnel. You adapt according to your personnel. I mean, obviously you have a plan, but you also adapt to your personnel. He made that statement. I liked it. We all talked about, the hiring of the DC was going to be huge. I don't have a whole lot of knowledge about Womack. I think that's his name. The guy from South Alabama have a whole lot of knowledge. What I've read seems to be legit. But the key, I think we've all said, is his ability to hold on to the roster. Now, you said a minute ago, Jimmy, we've lost about 28 guys to the portal, and some very important guys. But the cupboard is not bare.
That's right. Well, let me say this, man. Let's not fool ourselves into thinking that Saban didn't have anything to do with us recruiting nationally.
Sure.
Great. The brand is there, it's always been there, but you can go back and even some of the interviews, these kids are coming from across the country because they wanted to play for Saban.
That's right.
We have guys leaving the University of Alabama because they wanted to play for Saban, and now they can't. So let's don't fool ourselves there. Now, can DeBoer, still recruit nationally? Again, we'll wait and see. I think he can, again, because of the brand. But again, kid in California or Hawaii knew who Saban was. Do they know who this guy is?
Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah, they know who he is. We'll see.
But if they've been watching college football, they do.
Yeah. But you're right. But man, we lost players. We lost about as many players last year. Maybe not as many head scratchers. We still had a couple of head scratchers that left last year. But we didn't really lose any more this year than last year. It's just been, I guess, a bigger talking point because Saban left. But you're right. We got plenty of talent. We're going to prove that. We're going to show that, I think, this coming year. I have no doubt that we'll be right back in the thick of things. I know that's probably another conversation on the show, but we got plenty of talent, folks.
I love what Booker said. Y'all see what Booker said?
Yes.
No hard feelings, but
you're not wearing crimson. If you're not wearing crimson, get on.
But see ya.
Yeah.
There's no amount of money. There's no amount of money that can pull me from the University of Alabama. And Jimmy, here's my thing. And it occurred to me, believe it or not, on our softball team a year or two ago when these girls were leaving a great team because they were upset that Montana Falcons was getting all this money. Okay, you're transferring to another school. Are you getting more money there? No. So you're leaving because Saban retired. Oh, it's been a lifelong dream of mine to play for Ryan Day or Mike Norvell.
Right.
No, that is the most thin layer of logic of thinking. No offense to any of the guys that left. See ya. Good luck to you. But to say I'm leaving because Saban retired, I want to play for him. Well, good luck with Ryan Day. He hadn't won the Big Ten in 4 years. Okay, and they've spent around $13 million to try to put something together. If you think that works, see Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M. It didn't work. Now, I'm not saying it couldn't or it won't, but the fact that you want to chase a dollar and that you're leaving the gold standard, the University of Alabama, as the board said, this is the standard.
Let's just talk about this thing real quick. The one player that's most disappointing, the one player that I did not want to leave is Caleb Evans, freshman of the year in college football, All-American, first-round draft pick guy. He hits the portal. Everybody and their mother said, well, he's going to Georgia. Look at that picture of him and Kirby all kissy-kissy and lovey-dovey after they see champion. Oh, my gosh, his coach, T-Rob, was going over there. He was going to Georgia. Hands down, you'd bet $1 million anybody that knew who that kid was going to Georgia. Well, where'd he go? Ohio State. Right. Why do you think he went to Ohio State? It wasn't because of Ryan Day. He went there for that. And that's the thing, and that's what I'm reading with our NIL. We haven't had to pay players as much in that NIL stuff because of Saban. Now we don't have him there as our go-to, if you will. So we are going to have to step up our game there to compete with the Ohio States, to compete with the Georgias, compete with obviously the A&Ms and the apparently Ole Miss is of the world that's got these big NIL
Texas.
deals. Texas. So, but you're right. It's not because they're going to play for, oh my God, let me go play for Ryan Day now. They're going, he went to Georgia. I mean, he went to Ohio State and not Georgia when he decided to leave Alabama for money. And that's the
Here,
issue.
we will never have the pockets of the University of Texas or A&M. That is some deep oil money that we won't have. Now, our enrollment for years has been majority out of state, and that's attributed to Saban coming there. As our former president said on 60 Minutes one night, Nick Saban is the single greatest hire in the history of the University of Alabama. I agree, because our campus has changed as far as all the buildings, all the new roads, all the new dorms, all the new apartments, everything to me is directly related to Nick Saban being at the University of Alabama. So we should have money in our university, not as much as the athletic department or the NIL budget, but it should be there to where you can compete to a certain degree. But yeah, I don't think we'll ever have that amount of money that the millionaires on the board of trustees and athletic board in Texas schools
Yeah, but look, man, we've always been able to compete with them. We just haven't had to because of sake.
Right.
Now it's time to step up and start using that, because again, it's going to be necessary moving forward.
But using some different strategies for sure. Not having Saban there, we'll be using some different strategies. But it'll be interesting to see, DeBoer get in there and see how he does year one. Listen, if you're an offensive guy, how in the world would you not want to go play for him? Which
and the offensive coordinator.
We tried to go get the offensive coordinator before this past season, and now the guy's coming. So, I think that's a bonus from an offensive perspective. So that's going to be interesting to see. We picked up the kid out of Washington, the Bernard kid. That if you're an offensive-minded guy, you would think that you would want to play for DeBoer after watching football. As I mentioned a minute ago, if you've been watching college football, you know who Caleb DeBoer is. But it's going to be interesting to see how he does in the SEC with that. Somebody made the comment, and I don't know if I think it was either one of the transfers, the quarterback from Washington or the lineman, just talking about with SEC speed and this offensive mindset, the damage that can be done. So, again, yes, we can compete. We're going to have to use some different strategies. Bottom line, we're going to have Nick Saban's not there. The thought of going to play for Nick Saban's gone, and we're going to have to use some different strategies. And so, listen, as I said, we'll do multiple shows. There's so much to talk about with just building the coaching staff. We hadn't really touched on that a whole lot. Players leaving, players that we're getting, potential high school kids that we're hopefully going to be able to retain, et cetera. So we'll do this again, Tide fans. We'll come back next week. We'll have another show, special edition, talking about just everything that's transpired since Nick Saban's retirement. But hopefully you guys will join us again. Hopefully this is good information for you. We want to keep you interested, especially here locally. But we'll be here again next week, Channel 207. We'll do it at the same time. I think the show's going to air just like it did during the season. It'll be 6 p.m. or Channel 207, 8 p.m. So watch us, and we'll come back and do it again next week. Guys, thank you for joining me. Hopefully, like I said, we can do this next week, same time, same bat channel. All right, roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.